Call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 124 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Health. Before we begin, I'd like to ask all members and other in-person participants to consult the cards on the table for guidelines to prevent audio feedback incidents. Please take note of the following preventative measures in place to protect the health and safety of all participants, including the interpreters. Please use only the black approved earpiece. Former gray earpieces must no longer be used. Please keep your earpiece away from all microphones at all times. When you're not using your earpiece, place it face down on the sticker placed on the table for that purpose. Thank you for all your cooperation. In accordance with our routine motion, I'm informing the committee that all remote participants have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. Colleagues, before we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping matters that we absolutely need to get cleared off today, and I'm hoping we can do it expeditiously so that we can get to the minister. And it should be a straightforward administrative matter of our study budgets. So the first budget is in the amount of $1,000 for this study that we're doing today, supplementary estimates A, and that budget has been circulated, and it is simply for a couple of headsets and for the wonderful meal that you have back there. So we need to pay for that. Is it the will of the committee to adopt the budget as presented? Yes. I see consensus. That is adopted. The next is proposed budget in the amount of $11,500 for the study of breast cancer screening guidelines. The urgency of this is that the people who have already appeared on this study, we won't be able to pay them until this budget is approved, so that would be the right thing to do. Is it the will of the committee to adopt the budget for breast screening guidelines in the amount of $11,500 as presented? Yes. Agreed. Thank you. It's adopted. And finally, the proposed budget in the amount of $38,000 for the study of the treatment and prevention of cancer. So this is one looking forward to the fall. Is it the will of the committee to adopt this budget as presented? It's adopted. Thank you so much, colleagues. That's going to make our life much simpler. Pursuant to Standing Order 108 Sub 2 and the motion adopted on May 30th, 2024, the committee is commencing its study of the subject matter of We Have Bells. We require the unanimous consent of the committee to proceed through the bells. Could I have the unanimous consent of the committee to proceed at least through the minister's opening statement until maybe 10 minutes before, so that people can get over to the house if they wish? I see some thumbs up around. Do we have unanimous consent? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Pursuant to Standing Order 108 Sub 2 and the motion adopted on May the 30th, 2024, the committee is commencing its study of the subject matter of Supplementary Estimates A, 2024-2025. I'd like to welcome our panel of witnesses. The Honourable Mark Holland, Minister of Health. From the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Robert Ianniero, Vice President of Policy and Programs, is appearing by video conference. Representing the Canadian Institute of Health Research, Dr. Tammy Clifford, Acting President, by video conference. In the room accompanying the Minister, we have Eric Costin, Acting Deputy Minister, and from the Public Health Agency of Canada, Heather Jeffrey, President. Thank you, Minister Holland. Thanks for your patience while we work through some of the administrative details and for sitting through the votes. You know the drill. You have the floor. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be before this committee yet again, and in this instance, to take questions relating to supplementary estimates. Maybe if I could, Mr. Chairman, just before we begin, give a bit of an update on where we are and as we're dealing through a very challenging time for the world, frankly, in dealing with health. We know that coming out of the pandemic, there was enormous strain placed on the health system, burnout, wait times, significant human resource challenges that were felt here, but certainly felt around the world. And rising to meet those challenges is an exceptionally important priority for this government to work in collaboration with provinces and territories. And it was in your home province, Mr. Chairman, nearly a year ago, that we had the opportunity to meet with all health ministers in a spirit of cooperation and lay out an agenda of how we might work together in the aftermath of the pandemic on the challenges facing our health system. In the time that followed, we were able to see 26 agreements signed with all provinces and all territories dealing with health workforce issues, dealing with aging with dignity, dealing with mental health and many other aspects of our health system. And that then was followed up with continued progress on pharmacare and dental care. I can say on dental care in this moment that in just the opening number of weeks, some 6 weeks, we saw 200,000 seniors receive care across the country. Be happy to go into greater detail, but we're already now over 40% of providers participating. July 8th will be an important date because it's the point at which providers can participate on a one-off basis. They are not required to sign up in advance. And now we've also, of course, just seen the passage in the House of Commons, and I want to thank the health critic for the NDP, both current and past, Don Davies and Peter Julian, for their work in working cross purposes and finding common ground on pharmacare. I've been having very productive conversations with all provinces and territories, very anxious to begin that work, to build upon their jurisdiction and work with them collaboratively. On doit respecter les compétences provinciales et territoriales.
We must respect provincial and territorial jurisdiction. That is absolutely essential. And when I speak to Minister Dubé, for example, it's so clear that when it's possible to improve the quality of health care, then we're happy to do so in the spirit of cooperation, working together to improve health care for Canadians across the board.
That also have to be done. Drugs for rare diseases. We're now able to move forward and I hope imminently to be able to see progress on that. Personal support workers, which you see dollars in the supplementary estimates for. It's absolutely critical that we work collaboratively with provinces and territories to make sure those extraordinary individuals who were so critical during the pandemic and are critical today in our health system are paid a fair wage, and that we do our part as a federal government in that process. As well as health data legislation. That health data legislation will be coming before this committee. I look forward to the conversation that will happen there. But the interconnectivity of our system and recognizing that data saves lives is absolutely critical. Taking blindfolds off of our healthcare providers to make sure that data is used to its greatest effect to save lives and help make our health system work efficiently. It's totally unacceptable that we still see fax machines and physicians having to fill out forms 4 or 5 times. We have to get to the bottom of that. But I hope that in the same spirit I've seen with provincial and territorial colleagues, where we recognize health is bigger than partisanship, that we have to find ways to talk about solutions, I would invite members for their ideas. We have a huge number of seniors, as an example, who don't have dental care, who are going to get it. I would ask, if you're against that, what's your alternative? If you're against somebody getting diabetes medication or contraceptives, what do you say to somebody who needs diabetes medication or needs contraceptives? What's your solution? In the same with our health workforce issues. We've been able to make extraordinary progress, Mr. Chairman, working collaboratively to see, as an example, in Charlottetown, the 90-day service standard for foreign credential recognition, or with the College of Physicians and Surgeons to take many, many, many months and reduce and contract that process to days, and their processes as well. So I look forward to a solutions-based conversation where we can debate the very challenging global circumstance that we're in and how Canada can lead the way with a world-class healthcare system. And that concludes my opening remarks. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Minister. And we're going to begin rounds of questions with the Conservatives for 6 minutes. Dr. Ellis, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Minister, thanks for being here. Perhaps you could tell us, we tried this questioning before, but how many Canadians don't have a family physician?
Well, as I indicated before, it's difficult to get an exact number. There's between 12 and 14%, but again, it's difficult to know with precision.
Just a
because
number,
there are different
perhaps,
estimates.
Minister. How many?
Well, as I've indicated before, it's impossible to give an exact number. I'd say in a ballpark range would be between 12 to 14%.
Yeah, so are you telling Canadians out there that you, as the Minister of Health, really have no idea?
What I'm saying is that the health data, which is collected by provinces and territories, is not as clear as it should be. That what we get from provinces and territory leaves some ambiguity. And as a result, we are best left to speculate as to what that number would be.
Thanks
And
very
the-
much, Minister.
the
So it's
federal
really
officials are
6 to
responsible
7
the,
million
12 to
Canadians
14%.
without access to primary care. 6 to 7 million. How many doctors will Canada be short by 2028? This is
Well,
recent stuff. I don't know if you've read it, but it's important numbers. You could share that with Canadians.
Yeah, and I would say that, if, and I would posit to you, if you're going to advance deep cuts to the health system, then that number is going to grow exponentially. It's incredibly important not to allow cuts to occur to our health system. We've signed.
Thanks, Minister. I didn't say anything about cuts. I asked you for a number. How many doctors will we be short in this country by 2028?
Well, I'm not going to engage in a hypothetical. I think that trying to guess what that number might be, I imagine that you
So
have
once
some
again,
figure.
you have no clue. That's
No,
what you're telling
I
Canadians.
would say, Mr. Chair, I'm not here to play Jeopardy with you.
So
If you
you're
have
clueless.
these questions where you
You
have
really
an
have no
answer.
idea.
No, because
Okay.
frankly, it depends
It's
upon what happens in the next
44,000.
election, Mr. Chairman.
44,000. So
No, but that's
what
a
your government has
ridiculous
done
number.
is increase taxes on health care. The capital gains changes. Comes into force next week. How many more Canadians will be without a family doctor based on these changes?
Having a more fair and balanced tax system,
I
where
didn't ask you
doctors
about
still
I
have.
didn't ask you about taxes. I asked you how many more,
again,
and
with-
maybe you're having trouble hearing, but I can say it again for you. I'll say it slower. How many Canadians, because of your tax changes, will be without a physician?
I would say that the menace to our health system is the cuts that you would propose to it. It is not a more fair and equitable tax system that asks those who make the very most to pay a little bit more so that we can have a safe and secure health system.
Just the number,
If you want
Minister.
the
How many
opportunity,
more Canadians will be without a physician because of your tax increases? How many?
I reject the premise of that question. I think that what is a menace to our health system is the cuts that you would impose to that system. That a doctor still has huge advantages under our tax system
so as
to be
we
able
said,
to
Minister,
use
right now,
incorporation as a tax deferral
6
vehicle.
million Canadians don't have access to primary care. How many more, when you increase taxes, will not have access to a family physician? These are not hard questions.
Well, they are
They're-
because
they're
they're
difficult
not
for you.
rooted in
I get
reality.
it.
Look, you have some bizarre thing you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. I'm trying to answer rooted in reality. The reality of our health workforce crisis is the investments that we're making to both accelerate foreign credentials
So
and other
maybe,
forms of
Minister, we'll try it a
credentials, and to
different
make
way for
sure
you.
that, and to
So
make sure
estimates
in
would
the other
say-
instances, well,
Minister,
you're not interested in
estimates
an
would
answer.
say
So.
by 20, I'll say it slower for you, because you're struggling, I get it. Estimates would say that the doctor shortage will be 44,000 by 2028.
I
Not
reject
far in
that. I think the
future.
work that we're doing
Excuse
in-
me, Minister, I'm not finished. Just listen. I know it's hard. How much worse will the shortage get when the tax changes take effect? Simple question.
I reject the premise of that question. I don't think it's true or accurate. And I can walk through the tax advantages that continue to remain for doctors, which are very significant, and that the asking for a more just tax system is not the menace to our healthcare system. Your cuts, sir, are. The cuts that you wish to impose upon our healthcare system are a clear and present
very much,
threat
Minister,
to us not
but
being able to ensure that
It
people have the
fascinates me
healthcare work
because,
that they need,
you
the
know,
healthcare they
Minister,
need.
the fascinating thing is, you keep talking about cuts, but what I keep talking about is the tax changes, the tax hikes that you are promoting for healthcare. Did your government complete an analysis on the tax hikes before implementing the change?
So asking those who are making more than $250,000 from capital
No,
gains.
that's not what I asked you. I said, did
But
you
I don't
complete an
agree.
analysis?
Look, I'm not here to play your bizarre game.
This is
I'm
not
here
a
to try to
game.
answer questions rooted in
Minister,
reality. If
excuse
you
me,
want to
Minister,
issue a press
if you
release
think
with
the
your
Canadians not
thoughts, I
having a
welcome it.
physician is a game,
I think
then
that
you're in
I
the
think that
wrong job.
I think that
You
the
are in
menace,
the wrong job.
I think cutting dental care,
sad.
cutting pharmacare, cuts
So I
to
guess
health
the
care,
question is,
those are
Minister,
the things that are menacing our
The
healthcare
question
system.
today
Asking
is,
for a more
do you-
equitable tax
Are you
system.
really going to just never answer any questions? Is that your plan? But the question really is, did your government complete an analysis on the tax increases before you implemented the change? Yes or no?
I think the analysis of the tax changes demonstrate very clearly that we're asking those who have made an extraordinary amount of money through capital gains and had an incredible last 5 years to pay a little bit more,
Minister,
so that
the
a nurse
question
isn't
is-
paying a higher marginal tax rate
Minister, the
than somebody
question
else.
is, did you complete an analysis? Did your government complete an analysis on the tax change? Yes or no?
And I've
And if you
answered that question. There is absolutely an
If-
analysis
Chair?
done to
Did-
make sure
did
that
you-
this is
Point of
more
order?
equitable and more
If you
fair.
did, then
point of
please
order,
table
Mr.
it with
Chair.
the committee.
I have a
I'd
point
love
of
to
order.
see it.
I have a point
Chair,
of order from Ms.
I'm calling for a
Kayabaga. Go
point of
ahead.
order. Thank you so much. First, I just want to say that I could barely hear folks in the room. If they could increase the sound, would be great. My sound is pretty high. I'm calling a point of order because the minister is here to answer questions. Like, if he is asking him questions, like, give him time to answer questions and not speak over him. It's really hard to even hear what they're saying when they're speaking over each other like that. So if he's asking a question, I would say that it would be great for us to hear the answer as well.
Thank you, Ms. Kayabaga. What we try to do here is allow the person answering the question to have as much time to answer it as was spent posing the question. And we've come to learn that that's exceptionally difficult, but it's also the fairest way that we can do it. So thank you for that. Mr. Doherty, did you have something you want to say on the point of order?
Just only to say, Mr. Speaker, and to our colleagues that are in there, you're coming through crystal clear on my end. Both the volume is loud enough, and it's very clear. So it might be to Mrs. Kayabaga's question. It might be on her end, the issue.
It could be two people talking at once as well. Okay, Dr. Ellis, you have 25 seconds left for the question and the answer, and you have the floor.
Great, thank you, Chair. So perhaps one final time for you, Minister. I'll say it slow again because you're struggling, I know. But did the government, or Health Canada, which is part of the government, complete an analysis on this government-funded, government-implemented capital gains tax hike before implementing the change? And if so, could you table it with the committee, please?
Well, insulting me isn't going to help ameliorate the answer. The answer is that, yes, we've looked at it, and it was very clear that a nurse shouldn't be paying a higher marginal tax rate than a multimillionaire, and that asking folks who've done exceptionally well in capital gains over the last number of years to pay a little bit more so that we can have a healthy, stable health system, I think makes a good deal of sense. I understand your ideological opposition to it, but personally insulting me doesn't improve your argument.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have 14 minutes before the vote. Can I suggest that we do the next round and then suspend? So that would be 1 6-minute turn for the Liberals. Everybody okay with that? We can all vote here. Well, okay, we'll have one and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so we have Ms. Kayabaga next for 6 minutes.
I thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to thank the Minister for taking the time to answer questions to our committee. Minister, I just want to ask you, the Conservatives continue to vote against funding or initiatives that help actual Canadians, and then they turn around and state that we're not doing enough for the healthcare systems and the workers. Could you elaborate on the past year with respect to the bilateral working together and aging with dignity agreements and the work that you've been doing with the provinces and territories to work towards a shared health priorities of expanding health services and the modernizing of healthcare systems across Canada?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I mean, I think Canadians have an expectation, and I see it, frankly. You know, I had a meeting last week with Adriana LaGrange, who we have different political views, but we're able to have civil conversations where we are solutions focused. And I think that's where Canadians expect us to be, particularly in health. Even in this House, the work that was done on dental care or pharmacare across partisan lines, working with New Democrats to find common ground to make material improvements to the conditions of Canadians' health matters. Frankly, Googling what's wrong in the world and parroting it adds nothing. It is an act neither of courage nor intelligence to reflect what's not working in the world. What requires work and courage is solutions. And the only time in the House the Conservatives have ever asked about health care is when we were asking for the most wealthy in this country to make a small additional contribution. And I think it's important to recognize that In the last 5 years, capital gains, capital wealth has expanded vastly. But for a personal support worker, I don't hear the Conservatives asking about how do we improve the wages of a personal support care worker. I don't hear the Conservatives talking about what's the wage and working conditions of a nurse. But when it comes to somebody who is making more than $250,000 a year, the fact that they're going to go from 50% tax off to 1/3 tax off over $250,000, suddenly they're interested. And I think that is concerning. And it's a difference, frankly, in philosophy and where I think we need to be spending our attention. But on health workforce issues, what's going to get us to a point of coming out of the difficult situation we were in COVID to a circumstance where we were able to stabilize our health workforce is the $200 billion in investments that we've made with provinces and territories in those 26 agreements. It is in accelerating the support for internationally educated health professionals. It is in opening medical residency spots and reducing administration and working collaboratively with provinces, not in seeking out fights or partisan differences to put things on social media, but instead to find common ground and solutions. And I think the thing that frustrates me for the Conservatives is there are no solutions. They're what they would cut, there's what they wouldn't do. They criticize the challenges that are going on in the world. But when it comes to solutions and practical things that Canadians can see that they would do to improve the healthcare system, there's nothing there.
You touched on the PSWs. In this year's supplementary estimates, there was a funding towards improving the working conditions for PSWs so that they can continue to support the critical role in providing care for Canadians. Can you elaborate on that and tell us a little bit about the challenges that we aim to address?
Absolutely. I think it's a critical question. We saw, particularly in the pandemic, but even in, today, the work that personal support workers do day in, day out in our healthcare system is heroic. They're up against incredibly difficult circumstances and step in ways that are absolutely critical to our health system. And it's fair that they get a strong living wage. And so the conversations I've been having with provinces and territories to make sure that we do that collaboratively are extremely important. And I think that the money that is earmarked here will allow us to sign those agreements and be able to announce in every province and every territory a really important improvement to their to not only their wage but their living conditions. And I think it's fundamentally important that the people who are taking care of people be given and afforded the support that they need, both in the system and in their salaries, which is why we have to guard against the type of cuts that were being contemplated by the Conservatives.
Knowing that you have to collaborate with provinces and territories to make sure that we're actually able to support PSW workers across Canada, can you talk about the coordinated approach and how you're going to ensure that happens, and what are you looking to see with those collaborations with provinces and territories?
Thank you for the question, and I think in the first order, it has to be built on mutual respect for jurisdiction and for the need to find common goals and to work together. When I talk to Canadians, it doesn't matter where, they want to know how their governments are working together, how you're setting aside differences and finding solutions, how you're reaching across the aisle to find a way to smooth out differences rather than just insult or criticize. And so that has been what's characterized all of our discussions. And we just met as health ministers about a month ago, and it simply doesn't matter what party they're with. I can have a very constructive conversation in Saskatchewan with Everett Hindley, or I could talk to Bruce Finch in New Brunswick, or Adrian Dix in British Columbia. It doesn't matter they're in different parties. I think that they understand that there's that expectation of us, particularly in health. So with a spirit of cooperation and recognizing we have to put the health of Canadians first, it's exactly why we've been able to sign so many agreements successfully and why we've been able to navigate many of the challenging issues with respect to jurisdiction.
Thank you, Minister. There are 7 minutes to the vote. Do you wish to continue or do you wish to suspend? We need unanimous consent to continue. We have unanimous consent to continue. Monsieur Thériault, pour 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Thériault, you have 6 minutes. You have the floor. Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Honourable Minister. Following My study on the need for a registry for breast implants and Health Canada's knowledge of the illnesses surrounding these implants. In your response, you said that the committee would be created in due time. So what is in due time?
Aussi rapide que possible.
As quickly as possible. To me, it's not just a matter of how quickly I take action, it's a matter of the speed that's possible with the various jurisdictions. And, well, hang on, you answered within the appropriate time limit, but just barely squeaking under the timeline, and unanimously we agreed that it was an important issue. It had to be handled quickly. So what's your answer? It's essential for such a sensitive issue that we use science and data to ensure that all decisions are based on science and data. And that's why, absolutely, I want to make a decision as quickly as possible in this matter, but not by sacrificing, the integrity of the decision-making process. Yes, but what's an appropriate time? It's not now, I take it, because you don't yet have the assurances that, yes, indeed, it's scientifically valid. I mean, reread the report, Minister. When it comes to recognizing breast implant-related illnesses, you said that you would take this recommendation into account. So where are you now on that?
Nous sommes, on continue de travailler ensemble, de trouver.
We continue to work together to find solutions with all interested parties for breast implant illnesses, also with the scientific community studying these matters. So I'm open to work directly with you as well on this topic. Yes, indeed, and as quickly as possible, but we must make use of the system in place. All right. These illnesses have already been recognized as of a number of years, so I'm not sure what more you need. There are unanimous recommendations. This report here was carried unanimously, so I imagine that you'll be thinking this through a little quicker, please. Second question. The Cannabis Act. There have been a number of problems. A group of experts published recommendations, for example, limiting the amounts of cannabis for personal use or for personal production, at least, because too many permits were being distributed, they felt. And second, more surveillance of professionals in the healthcare system who tend to authorize or permit high levels of daily use, and also to have a method to revoke requests that are held to be a risk for public health and safety, so that Health Canada will do its job. What are you doing with the recommendations? To begin with, the good news is that the illegal cannabis market has been greatly reduced, about from 70%. 70% is now legal, rather, and that's a really good thing. It's quite clear. There's a report, for example, with a number of recommendations, yes, and we will take action based on them in this area. Your points are important to make, given the situation, but we will give our response soon. I'm not speaking of legal markets. I'm speaking of permits that are given in a permissive fashion, overly permissive fashion, for a legal use. That's what counts. Another question on this matter. The committee also recommends that you review the packaging and labeling to allow for QR codes on packaging to be able to provide more information to consumers, again, for cannabis, about the limits of cannabis use. Do you think this recommendation is useful? There are a number of issues, a number of recommendations, which are now in the process of being implemented. And the packaging issue, for example, and labeling. It's absolutely necessary for us to protect Canadians from abuse. And there are a number of additional actions we can take and shall take. The QR codes, labeling of cannabis, yes or no? Is this something you're thinking of or not? Yes or no? I can get back to you on that. All right? So you'll get back to me? Okay, fine. And you will provide me with a written answer? Fine. So I'm waiting for a written answer then. Thank you for that undertaking. Okay, I've got about 30 seconds left. I would like to be able to speak again later, and let me announce this up front here, that we be in a position to speak again about this cooperative approach that you say is working between Canada and Quebec, because where I don't think I'm hearing the same sort of story. I don't think you're on the same level of business as the Quebec authorities with regard to some of your programs. So I hope for more precise information on this in future than what you've given so far. There are two important undertakings underway in Quebec that are working, so well with Minister Dubé and with the Legault government. We have fine conversations on dental care as well in Quebec. Right now, over 70% of Quebec dental professionals have signed up to the program as of today. And many elderly people have benefited from this program already in Quebec. As for pharmacare, we have good conversations on this topic, and I think we can continue to move forward on this with Quebec. Thank you, Minister.
Colleagues, we're going to be voting momentarily, so I'm going to suspend the meeting pursuant to an agreement with among the whips. Once a meeting is suspended because of the bells, the meeting is to resume 10 minutes after the vote is completed. If it is the will of the committee to resume before that, I'm going to be here. Let me know. We can do it by unanimous consent and authorize it after the fact. Mr. Julian, do you have something you need to say?
Yes, I think you could get unanimous consent to reconvene after all members of the committee have voted and are witness.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has technical difficulties and ends up having to run over to the House, we're going to have to wait for them. So I would like people during the suspension to come to me to say, I'm good to go. When I've heard from everyone, we'll go. If not, we'll wait the time. We'll respect the agreement. And I know you have a hard stop at 5 o'clock. There's still a chance that we can get Mr. Julian's time in before that, and if we can't, we'll absolutely respect the deadline that you have, Minister. Thank you. The meeting is suspended. consult with every member of the committee. They have confirmed to me that they have all voted and wish to start the meeting right away in view of the timelines faced by the minister. So we are back in session by unanimous consent of the committee. And next up is Mr. Julian for 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair.
Je remarque.
Now, I note that when it comes to dental care, in Quebec, about 49.1% of the population doesn't benefit from dental insurance, has no private dental insurance or work-related insurance. So what is the number of Quebecers who have signed on to this new programming? Of course, the NDP pushed for this, and I think it's important for us to hear just how much in Quebec people are interested in this dental care plan. For the elderly over 65 years of age, there are at least, or probably more now, because these figures are already old, 700,000 people over the age of 65 in Quebec. Yes, Quebecers. Wow, that's extraordinary. How wonderful to see such a high level of interest for dental care, which has been, really pushed forward by the NDP.
That Jack Harris for the NDP brought forward the dental care motion that failed. Liberals and Conservatives voted against it. However, in this minority parliament, we're now seeing real interest for dental care. And I'd like to ask you, Minister, we have over 2 million seniors that have already signed up for the dental care program that the NDP pushed so hard for. The next stage is June 27th, I believe, where people with disabilities and kids under 18 will be able to join the program. There is absolutely no doubt there is an intense need for dental care, and the reality is it saves money in the acute care system because people no longer need to go to emergency wards when they have a dental emergency. That is very important. What are the measures that the government is going to take to ensure that there is as much uptake for people with disabilities and for kids under 18 as there has been for seniors who were given information, basically told that they could apply for the program? What is the government going to do to ensure that same level of participation for these other groups for the end of the month?
Yeah, it's an important question. I think we've seen incredible uptake among seniors. We estimated to be about 3 million eligible folks, and in just a couple of months, over 2 million have signed up. So that has been really exceptional. We've been able to connect with the people who need that care. There's now, for those that are 18 and persons with disability, as you mentioned, who are eligible for a tax credit, that's June 27th. So we're looking at how to communicate similar to see a similar strong uptake. But the point is well taken that we need to be aggressive in making sure that folks know about it because it is an essential matter of prevention, not just social justice. When people are getting dental care, they're not winding up in emergency rooms and not costing the health system more money.
I was knocking on doors this weekend in Newfoundland and Labrador and also in Montreal, and people were talking about the program. There's been a magnificent uptake, and the more publicity more information that's sent out, the better. I'd like to move on to pharmacare now. It passed through the House of Commons. It has not passed through the Senate yet, which is disturbing. Concerning because there are so many people, particularly with diabetes. My constituent Amber pays $1,000 a month for diabetes medication. This pharmacare program for people with diabetes will make a huge difference. I'm interested in knowing how many provinces are ready to talk now about pharmacare, now that it's through the House, while we await Senate approval. To what extent are provinces interested in stepping up?
The interest has been very strong. In your home province of British Columbia, Adrian Dix is ready to sign now if there was royal assent, I think. And we've had the opportunity to sort of talk about what that range of action might look like. Your point around the need for medication is important, not just as a preventative health measure. You're absolutely right, because there's all kinds of people when they don't have access to their diabetes medication, could be in a situation where they lose a limb or have a cardiac event or a stroke or a kidney failure. It's also critically important because what we're looking at costs. Currently, the last estimate in 2018, it's about $27 billion that diabetes costs our health system, and by 2028, that figure is expected to be $37 billion. So not acting in a preventative way isn't just unfair in terms of bad patient outcomes, it's dumb in terms of money.
I wanted to come to the Task Force on Preventive Healthcare and their recommendations that breast cancer screening not really take place until after the age of 50. We know that for racialized Indigenous women, the prevalence of breast cancer is much higher in their 40s. Have you lost confidence in the Task Force on Preventive Healthcare? How can we get to the point where the task force is making recommendations that actually pass the nod test with Canadians and ensure that we're saving lives? They admit it'll save 1 in 1,000, which is saving hundreds of women's lives every year. How could they make a recommendation when it doesn't match with the evidence?
Yeah, I was, as I've stated publicly, I was disappointed in the recommendations, and I've heard very clearly from stakeholder groups and from experts their shared disappointment. I think it's extremely important that we have that process be examined by an expert panel. So we're accelerating the review to be done by an expert panel to do that right away. We're stepping up, with Theresa Tam leading an effort to convene experts to make sure that we're hearing from everybody provincially, territorially, and in terms of health experts to make sure that they're well heard in this space so that we can have the review period of those recommendations appropriately challenged. So in the first order, making sure that we get those recommendations right, and in the second order, accelerating that review so that we can scientifically arrive at a point of answering the question that you've asked.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Julian. Next, Ms. Goodridge, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Canadian Medical Association said that the tax increases will, and I quote, jeopardizes the stability of our struggling healthcare system. The risk of an already overstretched physician leaving the profession or reducing their hours in response to heightened taxation is real. Do you disagree with the Canadian Medical Association?
I do. So there's a couple of really important tax benefits that are retained. One is if you incorporate, you still have the opportunity to shield, and unlike an RSP, there's no limit to that. So you can shield in an incorporation your gains and allow them to compound upon itself. And secondly, when you remove money, you continue to enjoy a capital gains exemption. So it will move from 50% to 1/3. But if, again, the important point here is a nurse who is...
To quote from the Canadian Medical Association yet again, and I quote, given the current economic climate, the tax changes coupled with a housing crisis and rising student debt will also impact young physicians and medical learners who find themselves in a much tougher financial position than they would have been in 10 to 15 years ago. This will create another disincentive to becoming a community-based doctor at a time when there is a grave shortage, end quote. We need community-based doctors, Minister. What analysis did Health Canada do on these proposed tax changes before moving forward with this reckless implementation?
Well, we absolutely need community doctors. That's why we're investing in doing exactly that with provinces and territories. And if you're a young doctor starting out, you're not sitting on large... Sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't believe that there was an equivalency of time there,
That was
Mr.
about
Chair.
a 40-second question and about a 4-second answer before you interrupted there, Ms. Goodridge. Go ahead. You got another 30 seconds to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if you want to get a young doctor doesn't have huge accumulated capital assets. Like, we're not talking salary here, we're talking capital assets. In the last 5 years, those people who had the money to have capital assets have made an extraordinary amount of money. And asking them to pay a little bit more, I think, is fair. You know who hasn't made an extraordinary amount of money on capital assets? Personal support workers, nurses, right? Plumbers. And those folks are looking at the marginal tax rate they pay and saying, why should I pay a higher tax rate than somebody else? I think that's unjust. And I think having a fair system allows us to make the investments that we need in our healthcare system.
Respectfully, I appreciate that you think that you can just talk over everybody because that's what you've been doing so far, but I'm going to say that this is my time. So I've asked very specifically, what analysis did Health Canada do on the number of doctors that would flee our borders and go practice elsewhere as a direct application of implementing these reckless tax changes?
So I've just explained that I see no such evidence of that, and that the equity that I just stated is very clear. Asking a nurse to pay a higher marginal tax rate
thank you,
than
Minister.
a millionaire
So are you
isn't
saying
fair.
that
and
Health
so we need a
Canada-
fair tax system, and we need
Minister?
to make investments in our healthcare system,
Minister,
and we need revenue to do
Minister,
that.
again, this is my time, not yours. So are you saying Health Canada did not do any impact analysis on doctors that would flee because of these tax changes, yes or no?
Well, I just said that I don't believe at all that there's any
I
evidence.
didn't ask what you
there's
believe.
any
I
evidence.
asked if
well,
there was
again, you're
economic
criticizing me for
analysis.
talking over you, but you're the only one talking over somebody.
Point of order,
with all
Mr.
due
Chair.
respect.
Yes, Ms. Sidhu, a point of order.
Mr. Chair, interruptions are incredibly difficult to our interpreters too, because we all want to listen. Thank you.
So go ahead and answer, a brief answer, please.
Well, the brief answer is
Minister.
you've concocted a narrative, and you're looking for evidence that doesn't exist for the narrative. If you want to know what menaces our health system, it's cutting dental care, cutting pharmacare,
Thank you, Minister.
cutting health care.
So-
That's what's going to menace our health system.
So effectively, Canadians get to hear it, that there was no analysis. This is all based on your beliefs and your hopes and wishes and unicorns, and not actually based on any economic analysis. Or if there is economic analysis, you won't share that with us. You continue repeating all of the same talking points, and yet you will not provide any analysis. So how can we trust you?
I say that if you're talking to a nurse, and you say to a nurse that a doctor will continue to be able to have a tax-sheltered vehicle to shelter and allow their gains to multiply upon themselves without taxation, and then when they pull it out, it'll be taxed at a preferential rate, that is still a major advantage. And I think we have to be able to look in the eyes of personal support workers and nurses and have a just health care
Minister,
system.
I'm going to give
and
you
that's important.
I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Is there evidence, and did you provide any kind of analysis as to how many doctors would leave as a result of this policy change? Yes or no? If so, table it with the committee.
I just stated very clearly, your ideological belief doesn't conjure into reality something that you want it to. Having a more equitable tax system is not a menace to our healthcare system. Cuts are. Deep cuts that you want to impose on our health system will menace our health system. That is exactly the thing that we are most concerned about.
Thank you,
the
Minister.
changes to have an equitable health system, I do not agree will
Thank
menace
you,
our
Minister.
health system.
So the menace to our health system is moving forward with policy changes without actually doing any impact analysis as to whether it's going to impact a doctor shortage that we already have in crisis in our country. I truly do not understand how this wasn't something that you would have demanded Health Canada move forward with, but clearly it's something that you're wanting to do. So you claim that there is something. So did you do it by province? Did you do it by territory? Is it all based on your beliefs?
Again, capital gains, anybody who's made capital gains over the last 5 years has done extraordinarily well. Asking people who've made a little bit more to pay some of those extraordinary capital gains so that we can have a health system, so that we can pay nurses, so that we can pay personal support workers, I think is fair and makes sense. I understand your ideological objection against asking those
Minister,
who make
you know
the
what's
most to
not
pay a
fair?
little more, but that's, I don't share it. And you know, I don't know what more to say to you other than you have a different position than
Ms.
I do.
Goodrich, that is your time, and I understand, Minister, that is your time. So thank you so much for being with us. We wish that the circumstances were such that you could stay longer, and I think you probably do too. But once again, thanks for being with us. We're going to suspend colleagues while the minister takes his leave and the next minister takes her place.
Mr. Chair, can I just read one thing into the record in fairness to the question that was
No.
asked
Point of order.
by Mr. Theriault? It's just that the QR code issue, yes, we are moving forward with that. I can say that publicly. It'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thank you. We are suspended. I call the meeting back to order, and I'd like to welcome our second panel of witnesses. We have with us this evening the Honourable Yara Sachs, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, and with her, representing the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, Dr. Samuel Weiss, Scientific Director, Institute of Neurosciences, Mental Health and Addiction. Dr. Weiss is with us by video conference in the room. Eric Costin is still here, Acting Deputy Minister for the Department of Health. Also Michelle Boudreau, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy Branch. Jennifer Sachs, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Control Substance and Cannabis Branch. Also in the room, representing the Public Health Agency of Canada, Nancy Hamzawi, Executive Vice President, and Michael Collins, Vice President, Health Promotion and Chronic Disease Prevention Branch. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to the committee, Minister Sachs. You have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and honorable members. It is lovely to be back with you again at the HESA committee. Since being named minister, and even prior to that time, my priority has been to ensure that Canadians have access to mental health and substance use services that they need, when they need them, and where they need them. In recent weeks, I've been meeting with young people and their families across the country to talk about mental health. They've shared their stories with me and spoken poignantly about the challenges young people face today. I've also spoken with mental health practitioners, researchers, and service providers. They've offered valuable insights into how we can work together to better support youth as they navigate the transition to adulthood. With the new Youth Mental Health Fund, our government is investing $500 million over 5 years to enhance youth access to mental health care. This fund will help community organizations provide more care options for youth that are timely and accessible. It will help broaden our support network and better equip organizations to refer youth to other mental health services within their networks and partnerships. Community organizations are a lifeline when it comes to mental health care. They provide direct support to people in need. They are trusted by the people they serve, and they have first-hand knowledge, which is much needed to make a real difference, especially among equity-deserving groups and youth. It is so important for us to remember what it means to be Canadian right now. We hold each other together, and we are holding each other through many challenging things right now, including the tragic lives lost through the overdose crisis. This is where we step up and throw everything we have in our toolbox to go to save lives. On the other side of the bench, unfortunately, there's much stigmatization. They talk about overdose crisis in terms of our loved ones being criminals. They want to stigmatize our loved ones back into the dark corners and criminalize them. People should not have to hide their struggle with substance use and the disease of addiction. This is the ideology of the failed war on drugs, and we cannot go back to that way of thinking. We know that needle exchanges and safe consumption sites bring people into healthcare. It gives them another day, a day towards living and thriving. They walk into those places knowing that they will get the help that they need. We're not just talking about saving lives, Mr. Chair. We are talking about getting people the health services they need with the compassion and care that they deserve. Last September, we launched a national call for proposals under Health Canada's Substance Use and Addictions Program. This program supports community-based organizations in delivering innovative prevention, harm reduction, treatment and recovery, and other evidence-based health interventions. Our $144 million investment in SUOP is an important part of a comprehensive response to problematic substance use. We are also investing more than $20 million in a new youth substance use prevention program. This program will support the implementation and adaptation of the Icelandic prevention model right here in Canada, a model that has been highlighted multiple times in studies from this committee. In addition, Budget 2024 includes $150 million over 3 years for a new emergency treatment fund. This fund is designed to meet urgent needs on the front lines by providing support for municipalities and Indigenous communities facing an acute increase in substance use harms and deaths related to the overdose crisis. Mr. Chair, we are stepping up and looking at all options, but we cannot do this work in isolation. We recognize it's incumbent on the provinces and territories as the main healthcare service providers to identify their needs and their priorities. Our historic investment of close to $200 billion over 10 years will improve health services across the country, with $25 billion being provided through tailored bilateral agreements. This funding will help integrate mental health and substance use services as a full and equal part of our universal healthcare system. So far, more than a third of the bilateral funding has been allocated to mental health and substance use services, and this is good news. It will strengthen the capacity of family health care providers to offer mental health and substance use support to patients all across the country. This is essential because mental health and substance use care should never be an afterthought. Our mental health and well-being are integral to who we are, and the healthcare system must reflect this. The Government of Canada will continue to work with its partners to ensure that mental health and substance use services are built into the very foundations of that system. With a strong foundation in place, Canadians can count on having access to a full range of high-quality, culturally informed, timely healthcare services that are accessible to them. This is what they expect, and they deserve nothing less. Thank you, and I'm now happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to start with those rounds of questions with Dr. Ellis for 6 minutes, please.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks, Minister, for being here once again. A question, did we hear testimony in this committee that the Deputy Chief of the Vancouver Police has testified that 50% of the dilaudid seized is diverted from so-called safe supply?
I'm familiar with the testimony of Fiona Wilson. However, she did state that we strongly support the notion of not trying to wrest ourselves out of this crisis. She also referred to the importance of having a system where...
Thanks very much, Minister. In November 2021, is it true that fair-priced pharma imported 15 kilograms of heroin into British Columbia?
It seems that the member is out of date with his facts. Fair Price Pharma then removed that tweet and also had discussions with Health Canada verifying that they did not.
So are you suggesting, Minister, that there is no heroin imported legally into this country?
Heroin is imported legally into this country under strict licensing and permit regimes.
So, okay, well, whatever. Sunshine Earth Labs, Canadian-based bioscience company, announced in March of 2023 that they received an amendment to its controlled and drug and substance dealer license to legally possess, produce, sell, and distribute opium, morphine, and heroin. On January 12, 2023, it received a similar amendment for the sale of cocaine in November of 2022. Is that true?
I would have to refer to our officials on that, but I will emphasize that any company in this country that has a license is
Minister,
for medical
that's fine.
use
If you
and
don't know the
research
answer,
purposes.
just please get some. You know we have short time. Just find someone who can answer it. Is there anybody
Mr.
back there
Chair,
that can answer?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Minister. Yes.
I think the framing of what companies do when they do have licenses to import controlled
come
substances is important for the record.
I tend to agree with you, but the time for this exchange is complete. I expect that perhaps one of the other questioners will allow you to come back to that topic. Go
And
ahead,
I will
Dr.
defer
Ellis.
to the experts to answer Dr.
Thanks very
Ellis's
much.
question.
You know, I guess all we get from this committee from the ministers is non-answers. If there's nobody down there that can answer a question, why do they even agree to come?
I will defer to one of our health committee officials to answer the specific question on that license.
I asked you a very specific question. Anybody down there can answer it.
I think we would have to get back to the member on his question with respect to the specific company information that he's looking for. We don't have it on hand.
Great. Certainly table it with the committee. We'd appreciate that. Is it also true that Safe Supply Screening Company announced on January 30th, 2024, that they underwent an official inspection by Health Canada for the acquisition of a dealer license? Yes or no?
I defer to officials who met with them.
And so, Minister, you confirming that your officials have met with this company having a dealer's license for opium, morphine, heroin, cocaine?
Confirm that they will answer your question.
So have they met with this company?
Again, Mr. Chair, I think with respect to specific meetings with specific companies, we'd be happy to get back to the member with the details, but we don't have them on hand.
It's interesting that the website of Safe Supply Streaming Company talks about a market of $360 billion in legal narcotics, including cocaine. Minister, it seems interesting that now we have companies in Canada getting licenses to, as I said, possess, produce, sell, and distribute opium, morphine, heroin, and cocaine, all under your Liberal government's idea of legalization. Is that true?
Mr. Chair, all of the narcotics listed by Dr. Ellis are legal and restricted are under strict regulations. They're also used for medical purposes in hospitals and also in research settings.
Interesting. So what I said specifically, Minister, is that they can legally possess, produce, sell, and distribute these drugs. Is that true?
Clearly, Dr. Ellis isn't interested in the importance of research science and medical treatment use of these highly regulated narcotics.
Excellent. So what you're telling me is that these drugs will never be legal to be used outside of research settings in our country. Is that true?
That is correct.
And oddly enough, it's stated that the Health Canada license are for research purposes only, as you have attempted to say. But the CEO of Sunshine Labs says since inception, we have been proactively pursuing amendments to our dealer's license to include MDMA, coca leaf, cocaine, opium, morphine, and heroin to position ourselves as a legitimate, safer supply partner. Have you or your officials had meetings with this company?
Jen Sachs can answer with regards to meetings.
So we have met with Sunshine Labs. Sunshine Labs is a licensed dealer. They did publish misinformation. We did follow up last spring when that misinformation was published in terms of selling to the public. They are not authorized to sell to the public, but licensed dealers can conduct certain activities with controlled substances for medical and for research purposes, depending on the substance and depending on their license.
Don't you think on behalf of Canadians it's very concerning that a former medical officer of health in BC set up a company to import heroin into this country, and now the current Minister of Health there, with your cooperation, Minister, is attempting to legalize other substances in this country? Is that not concerning to you? Should Canadians be concerned about that? I know I am.
I think it's important that we address the facts with regards to Fair Price Pharma and not speculation. Dr. Perry is an esteemed and well-respected physician. Fair Price Pharma is an early-stage company looking at research potential in addressing substance use and addiction, and consults with Health Canada on what are the proper channels and regulatory bodies.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis, and thank you, Minister. And next, Ms. Sidhu, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the Minister and all the officials for being here with us today. First, Minister Sachs, I believe you wanted to add more information with regards to Dr. Ellis' question. I would like to give you a few seconds to answer them first.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, any company that seeks to engage with Health Canada with regards to inquiry on licensing or permitting on what is an extremely rigid regime in which we must comply according to international treaties and the INCB, requires that all regulatory standards are in place, and they can only import or export for medical treatment use or research.
Thank you. And Minister Sachs, my next question is that recently I had a meeting with my youth council, and they clearly told me about the need to have mental health tools available for them. So I just want to, if you can tell us, could you expand on our youth mental health fund program? And also, if you can talk about recently announced integrated youth services collaboration centers, the increased funding for these centers.
Thank you to the member, and through you, Mr. Chair, what I'd like to say is the Integrated Youth Service Program is a hallmark of what we can do to help youth in every part of this country in meeting their needs in community with a full range of services, including primary care, counseling, and support to families as well. But with regards to the Youth Mental Health Fund, we are really, really excited to be working with a youth-led and expert-led consultation process right now that will be a once-in-a-generation investment in our young Canadians. We know that mental health challenges have been growing amongst our youth, and we also know that we need to meet them where they are so that we can offer them the services that they need and deserve so that they succeed and thrive. Because we know when our young people thrive, Canada will succeed, which is exactly why these investments are needed at this moment, particularly after COVID. With regards to recent investments, we've been building out the Integrated Youth Service Program for quite a number of years. There are now 48 hubs throughout the country, gathering data, knowledge, and working with youth every single day. And now we have made a $59 million investment to network the network so that knowledge exchange, increased support, and an evidence-driven approach to addressing youth mental health and wellness and well-being will be the future of young Canadians. I would like to defer.
you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Next questions to Ms. Jeffrey. My next question is that, Ms. Jeffrey, could you please talk to this committee about the work of your department to implement the National Framework for Diabetes?
Can you specify to who that question was to, Ms. Sidhu?
To PHAC, Minister.
So I would suggest
Ms.
that
Jeffrey.
Nancy Hamzawi is here on behalf of PHAC, and perhaps she can answer your question if you don't mind repeating it.
Yes, please. Could PHAC can tell us what the implement of National Framework for Diabetes, what's happening?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. Back in October 2022, the Framework for Diabetes in Canada was released, marking a major milestone to better support Canadians. Through a budget 2021, the government committed $20 million to research through the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and the Canadian Institutes for Health Research Partnership to Defeat Diabetes, including $15 million matched by the JDRF. On February 29th, you all have been discussing Bill C-64, and the discussions around National Universal Pharmacare, with diabetes being a very important pillar to that bill. Thank you very much.
And could you expand the conversation with the provinces and territories as they work on implementing their own plan in aligning with this?
So we work very closely with our colleagues in the provinces and territories. We have a public health network as well as the Council of Deputy Ministers, ultimately leading to support the ministers across the country. We've had several conversations, have exchanged best practices and experiences to make sure that we have that coverage coast to coast to coast.
Thank you. I'm coming back to Minister Sachs. Minister Sachs, can you talk about the bilateral agreement with the provinces and the historic investment in mental health care, if you can elaborate on that?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Chair. Over the past year, with Minister Holland, we've signed 26 agreements for every province in total for province and territories, totaling $200 billion in investments into the healthcare of Canadians. Part of that work was based on 4 key principles, one of them being mental health and substance use. The cumulative result of that has been that with those agreements, over a third of the funds allocated across provinces and territories is dedicated to mental health and substance use services. As I said in my opening remarks, the federal government is a partner with provinces and territories, understanding that their jurisdiction is responsible for delivering healthcare services, mental health services, and substance use services. And we work with them to support them in what they need for their communities.
Thank you, Minister. Suite, Monsieur Thériault, pour 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Now, Mr. Thériault, for 6 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, Honourable Minister. Let's try to have a conversation about the toxic opioid and toxic drugs crisis. The last time I put questions to you on this matter, we were discussing the seizure carried out by the RCMP. There were allegations to the effect that part of the stash of drugs seized were counterfeit drugs, but came through diversion of supply intended for safe injection sites, safe consumption sites. So you didn't have a full set of answers for me then. Could you now tell us more about what was at issue, what happened with this seizure, where these drugs came from? Have you been able to get to the bottom of this?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Chair. As the member knows, diversion is illegal of all drugs, whether they are ADHD medication, hydromorphone, or OxyContin, which was also commented recently in the media, all prescribed drugs that are not for their intended use and user is
Excusez-moi,
illegal.
Monsieur le Président,
If I may, Chair, I have trouble understanding the interpreter. I don't think the interpreter is speaking close enough to the microphone, so it's very difficult for me to hear the translation, the interpretation. I'm terribly sorry, Madam Minister.
allez-y.
Go ahead. Continue.
Shoot.
Est-ce que c'est
Is there
réglé maintenant,
interpretation now?
Monsieur Thériault?
Are things working for you now, Mr. Thériault? Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. As I was saying, Mr. Chair, diversion is illegal of all prescribed medications that are diverted and not for their anywhere that they are not for their intended use. We do know through the RCMP that in the seizures that they have conducted, there has been no increase, according to DAS, which is the main data source that we use, of an increase of hydromorphone in diverted and seized operations. That being said, it is certainly an issue of concern for me, and we have worked very diligently with the department to oversee what mitigation measures we can ensure when it comes to our safer supply programs.
OK, donc vous n'avez pas encore...
Okay, so it seems to be a mystery. That's what I understood from the interpretation. So you still haven't shed light on the situation. We still can't tell where these drugs were from. We know that part of it is from diversion of safe supply. Is that what you're telling us, or we're just remain unsure? We're not sure.
Obviously, I can't speak to the specifics of an investigation that's being done by law enforcement. However, there is no mystery here when it comes to that. That diversion does take place. As a matter of fact, Fiona Wilson, when she was here, did talk about that diversion is a reality, which is why law enforcement has to play an important role in our full set of pillars of how we address the illegal toxic drug supply. But if the question is how much more, or if there is more, there have been allegations to such made by the Conservatives. We know both from the RCMP and also from DAS that there is no evidence of a systemic diversion of safer supply.
OK. Parce qu'à l'époque, c'était pas si clair que ça.
Okay, because back then it didn't seem that clear to the effect that there wasn't any systemic diversion of safe supply. Okay, so this said, I understand there may be further investigation. Are you aware of how such an investigation will take place without necessarily providing undue details? Are things moving forward? Will we eventually get an answer? Will we eventually get to the end of this investigation? It's been ongoing for months, I understand. And was this an isolated incident? What's the information you have? I mean, yes, it of course, enforcing the law is an important pillar in the national strategy. That's why I'm putting this question, because we tend to forget this. Witnesses have come to tell us that, fighting against drugs, that's not something we can ever win. Prohibition, coercion, it's never going to solve the problem fundamentally. But nevertheless, using the law is part of the strategy, and we don't seem to speak to it often enough. Another question about having requirements respected. Have you undertaken to create any regulations, make any regulations about precursors? The precursors that are allowing people to operate the clandestine labs that put out these very dangerous and killer drugs.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I would agree with the member. The concern of precursors is one that we are definitely occupied with. As a matter of fact, both last year and this year, I have signed off on new regulatory regimes on recent precursors that we have seen coming into effect on the streets of our on the streets and through seizures that we've seen. But to be frank, this is what we are most vigilant about in making sure that we highly regulate precursors. It is a complex.
Excuse me.
Yep.
The bells are presently ringing. Can we have the? That is the end of Mr. Theriault's turn. The minister can finish her answer if we have unanimous consent to continue. Is it the will of the committee to keep going for another 20 minutes at least, and then I'll check back with you? Are you able to do that, Madam Minister? Okay, if you could briefly complete your answer to Mr. Theriault, and then we're going to go to Mr. Johns. Thank you.
So to be succinct on this, what I will say is we are in a constant process of evaluating and highly regulating precursors when it is needed, and we know that it is needed. But I would also highlight that the complexity of precursors in regulating them is that they are found in other industrial uses that we use every day, such as paint and other products. So we need to be vigilant, and we are. We are also part of the International Drug Coalition on Synthetic Drugs, which addresses precursors, as well as the trifentanyl group.
Thank you.
To be on top of it.
Mr. Johns, please, for 6 minutes.
Minister, in the past, you've agreed that the toxic drug crisis is a health issue. Is that still the case?
Absolutely.
So, Minister, you know that it's illegal for people to have personal use of or even have illicit substances on them in Canada, everywhere east of the Rockies. You're aware that that is the case right now?
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay, so that being said, it's a criminal issue in this country. Would you not agree?
I would say that at this point in time, decriminalization is only available as in British Columbia to refer people to health services.
Okay, so you agree that it's a health issue. Your government, the Privy Council, went out and did polling to see whether the Canadian public supported decriminalization. Polling was mixed. If the polling was really high in support of decriminalization, would your government gone ahead and moved decriminalization sweepingly across Canada?
First of all, thank you for the question, and I want to thank the member for his advocacy. As I've said, both in this committee and in the House, as we move to address this health crisis, we also have to make sure that we have all tools in place, both from a public health and public safety lens, which means that we have to ensure that full wraparound health services are in place as we move forward with other tools such as decriminalization.
Minister, I can't think of another health issue where the government's going out and doing polling, whether it be heart disease, liver disease, what decisions they're going to make, how they're going to maneuver around health. Can you think of one?
The Privy Council office does polling on a myriad of issues.
Has the Privy Council done polling of the 42,000 families that lost loved ones, and whether they should ramp up and scale up a safer supply of substances to replace the toxic drug supply?
I can't speak to if such specific polling was done, but what I will say is that I meet with families across the country constantly, unlike the opposition who refuses to meet with families, including Moms Stop the Harm.
You believe that this is an addiction crisis or a poisoned toxic drug crisis?
This is an issue of a poison toxic drug crisis that is leading to an addiction crisis.
Right. So right now, your government is making policy decisions, health policy on polling. This is absolutely cruel and harmful. The stigma is so real just by doing the poll on decriminalization. Do you not agree? Do you not see this?
I thank the member for his question, Mr. Chair, but I find the question, first of all, rather odd. We base our policy on evidence and science and interactions with health experts from across the country so that we have a full and robust understanding. I don't think any responsible government addressing healthcare would guide their policy strictly on polling. So I take issue with that, Mr. Chair.
Well, I can't think of any government doing polling on healthcare policy and healthcare decisions. So that's my response to that. Now, we know that there is nowhere in this country, no territory or province, even the Alberta model that's got one therapeutic center built out of the proposed 12 or 13, there is nowhere that we have treatment on demand. I don't think we need to go and poll the public to see that we need to scale it up. Why has your government not found a way through the jurisdictional quagmire like you did through COVID to ensure that we have a treatment and recovery program on demand to meet people where they're at now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I thank the member for his question, and as I've stated earlier, this is exactly why, in addition to the $200 billion of agreements, of which 25 billion of that of the 25 billion, mental health is a key principle. This is why we're making these investments in health jurisdictions. This is why we've put a $595 million towards over 400 projects through SUOP. This is why this government has put $1 billion on the table to address substance use and the overdose crisis in this country since 2016.
Mr. Johns.
So you've got the Canada Drugs and Substances Strategy, and it's just that, a strategy. There is no timeline, no dollars tied to that timeline. Portugal took an approach where they had a timeline, they had resources tied to the timeline. Minister, you have still not laid out a plan. We had an auto summit. I asked you repeatedly when we're going to have a First Minister's summit on this crisis, not saying that auto theft isn't an issue, but this is a real issue. You said you were going to reinstate the expert task force. We have not been explained or told how that's going to roll out. When is the expert task force going to roll out? When are we going to have a First Minister's meeting? And when are you going to actually table a plan with a timeline? People are dying rapidly. You don't need to do more polling to figure that out.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I believe we are on a plan. The CDSS is exactly that. However, every agreement that has been signed with every jurisdiction is attached to a work plan of their plans of what they know best for their communities and the investments that they need to make in addressing the mental health and substance use crisis. That being said, we continue to work with them. We continue to add additional investments, whether it's through SUOP in the most recent round of $144 million, whether it's through the Emergency Treatment Fund, which will be rolling out in the fall. We have to work with jurisdictions and we have to work with communities. They know best.
Minister, it's still spending less than 1% than what your government spent in response to COVID. Why? Because of the stigma. That is so clear and evident right now.
Brief response, please. We're out of time. Minister?
We are addressing this as a public health crisis with the utmost priority.
Thank you. Ms. Goodridge, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alors, Madame la Ministre, tout récemment...
So, Madam Minister, very recently, a supervised injection site opened its doors in the Saint-Henri sector of Montreal, right near a school and a childcare center. Children have to make special efforts to step over, use syringes and avoid drug users. As my colleague Gérard Deltel put questions to you about this, I'll point out that your answer was you were unaware of this site. So what can we tell parents who were rightly worried about this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll thank the member for her question. And the member should know that this is a provincial safe consumption site that was authorized and is regulated and operated by the province. In my own perspective, and certainly as a mother and as minister, as I've said repeatedly, and I say here now, public health and public safety are a priority in addressing the overdose crisis. However, in doing so, we also have to meet people where they're at in community to have accessible health care, which this is what safe consumption sites are.
Merci, Madame. Alors, la site de consommation sur...
Thank you, Madam. So the Benoit Lobre safe consumption site, this is what I asked a question about. We've seen is not on the website of Health Canada as being an approved site. So has it not been approved? Is it under the open application section that it's been approved of?
Application, yes.
So effectively, there are these injection sites that require to have an exemption under Section 56.1 of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And it can have an open application with Health Canada, not be approved by Health Canada, and be allowed to operate. Is that correct?
As I stated, this site is operated and was authorized under provincial jurisdiction.
Has an exemption been given to La Maison Benoit Lobre?
I believe the member answered her own question when she referred to the website.
So how is it allowed to legally operate if there has not been an exemption given?
Because safe consumption sites are part of healthcare. Harm reduction is healthcare. I may feel I need to remind the member of that.
I would also remind the minister that its words matter and it is not safe, it is supervised. Her own website actually even says supervised. So we're effectively, there are injection sites that are operating that do not have the legally required exemptions through the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, and you're completely A-OK with this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I thank the member for her question and will remind her that from the healthcare lens that we are operating in, harm reduction is a key pillar of healthcare service provision, which does include safe consumption sites and overdose crisis sites. That being said, with regards to her specific question on this site, I will defer to officials.
Thanks very much. I'll just clarify that for the exemptions, there's individual site-specific supervised consumption sites that can be authorized under subsection 56.1, as you noted. There are also class exemptions that have been provided to each province and territory to be able to authorize urgent public health needs under their own authority. And so Health Canada has issued a class exemption to provinces and territories, Quebec included, and it is under that class exemption that the current supervised consumption site or overdose prevention site that you're referring to is operating.
Okay, so the City of Montreal made a request to go towards the British Columbia model. Has that been rejected?
I believe the Mayor of Montreal was very clear in her public media statements that there is no such request at Health Canada.
So how many applications are into Health Canada to adopt a BC-like model of legalization of hard drugs that are currently sitting with your department?
I'll ask an official to answer that, but as to my knowledge, there are none. Do you want to say that is correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there are none.
So there are currently no applications whatsoever that have been received by Health Canada. And will you commit now to rejecting any future applications that will go forward?
I don't deal with hypotheticals. I address each community and its requests in addressing the overdose crisis in their communities and their knowledge and understanding of what they deem as best. Then we trust evidence, science, expertise, and healthcare
Thank
service
you.
provision.
Thank you, Minister.
So
Thank
given
you,
the
Ms.
large
Goodrich.
workload the committee has on the
Next, we're gonna
docket
go
and the
to
com-
Dr. Hanley, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Minister and officials, for appearing. We have just heard in the last questions what I think is a stigmatization of an ongoing stigmatization of drug use. In this case, around the proximity of an exempted supervised consumption site. in proximity to to public settings. I feel this is one part of confusing the public usage of drugs and decriminalization and trying to establish a causation between the two. I also hear blaming the toxic drug crisis on diverted hydromorphone. I've also heard of demonizing the use of diacetyl morphine as an example of under very strict conditions of using medical therapy for addiction. So all to say, can you comment on the role of disinformation in how this is affecting our ability to work with partners, provinces, and territories to address the toxic drug crisis?
Thank you for the question. And through you, Mr. Chair, I would say that certainly my department and myself, we're focused on saving lives and connecting people to healthcare. That is our first priority. We don't subscribe to the Conservatives' ideological and often ignorant approach when it comes to this overdose crisis and the illegal toxic drug supply.
Point of order, Chair.
Dr. Ellis?
No, I think that this meeting's been going reasonably well. I think that using inflammatory remarks, such as the word that the minister's chosen to use at the current time, really is not conducive to furthering this conversation, especially when the member opposite has raised the sensitive topic of disinformation. So I guess what I would suggest is that just because someone doesn't agree with the minister doesn't make them ignorant. If we're going to be doing name calling here, I think we could descend very quickly into a state of back and forth, which will not be productive. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
You have a point of order, Ms. Kayabaga?
I think that our colleague on opposite has been making similar comments. The minister is making her comments, and we would like to hear from her. Thank you.
I guess I would say this: this has been a charged meeting from the get-go. This is for the minister and for the people posing questions. Let's all see if we can turn down the temperature in selecting our language. I'm not necessarily singling you out, Minister, because some of the questions have been fairly sharp as well. But we all have a role to play. Yes, you have another point of order, Ms. Kayabaga?
I do. Our colleague has also, he did call the minister clueless prior to his comments, and I think that we should rein in those comments.
I'm cognizant of that, which is why I phrased my response in the way that I did. Thank you.
Point of order, Chair.
Okay, we have points of order from Dr. Ellis and Dr. Hanley, but we're descending now into debate. I've made my ruling. I've asked people to tone it down. I don't think we need to beat this to death, but I'll hear you out. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. I guess I would suggest that if someone doesn't know the answer to a clearly answerable question, then they are actually clueless.
Dr. Hanley, go ahead.
My point was just that I wanted to preserve my 5 minutes of question and answer time. Thank you.
I think where we left off, the minister was in the middle of answering a question from Dr. Hanley, and Dr. Hanley, you are 1 minute 50 into your 5 minute turn, so you still have 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and the minister has the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just try to be succinct and accurate in answering Dr. Hanley. To be frank, Mr. Chair, there's a false debate brewing of harm reduction versus treatment, and it's a distraction because we're focused on saving lives. We are focused on those who use substances, who have the disease of addiction, and getting them to healthcare services. And we know that this is where we need to stay within the evidence and the science. Professor Benjamin Perrin has also raised issues about disinformation, calling out the leader of the opposition on his claims about hard drugs, crack, heroin, and cocaine being decriminalized and resulting in a 380% increase, which was false. Dr. Perrin himself, a former Conservative staffer, outlined this and called the leader of the opposition out on what he called, quote, the lies he was spreading. So I would encourage all of us to focus on what's most important, is that we can't treat someone if they are dead. That is why harm reduction is healthcare. It is a door to the system, and that is why we need to use every tool available to us to save lives, to get those we love into the treatment and healthcare services they deserve.
Thank you, Minister. I'm hoping I have a little bit of time left. I just wanted to focus quite specifically on SUAP. I really welcome the refunding of SUAP. I've also heard from some organizations that they have been waiting a long time, particularly with renewing successful projects, whereas the focus on SUAP has always been on new, innovative projects. Of course, we want to support innovation, but we also want to support ongoing success. And I wonder if you could comment on that aspect.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, what I'll say is we know how much there is a need for the SUAP stream. This last round of $144 million in funding saw over 700 applications and asks over $2 billion in cumulative totals. That being said, we have to find a balance to making sure that we are reaching as many communities as possible around the country, including rural and remote, and ensuring that there is low access and barrier-free options for those who are seeking healthcare services. We continue to innovate, we continue to try out new tools, but we also want to see what is scalable amongst those that are successful. So we do try to find the balance between both.
30 seconds, Dr. Hanley.
That's great. Perhaps I'll just jump quickly to the Emergency Treatment Fund. Again, welcome news that this will be occurring. And I know that this is scheduled for implementation in the fall. I wonder, you've already had consultations. Can you give me a couple, perhaps, of concrete examples of what this could look like for, say, a rural northern community like in my riding?
Briefly, please, Madam Minister.
It will include looking at what the immediate needs are on the ground, whether it's drug checking services, additional training in naloxone, hiring of nurse staff and other healthcare staff on an as-need basis if there is a crisis, amongst examples.
Thank you. Mr. Thériault, we have 9 minutes to vote. Is it the will of the committee to continue? I don't see any objection. Are you okay to stay and vote here, Minister? Okay. Mr. Thériault, 2 minutes et demi.
Mr. Thériault, you have the floor for 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. Madam Minister, in another discussion, you were asked questions and had a chance to discuss this in response. And I would like to know the harm reduction. The specialists came in to tell us that this is really the tip of the iceberg. It's the beginning of treatment, harm reduction. And the Benoît Labre, by the way, Maison Benoît Labre is a supervised housing site with 2 injection rooms. And when we traveled across Canada, we saw that success stories, people who manage to get out of their addiction, really depend a lot on supervised housing. So this is indeed a good harm reduction technique. So could you tell us a bit more about harm reduction and tell me whether you indeed feel, like the experts whom we heard, that this is the way to launch health treatment? Contrary to what the Minister of Alberta tells us, the Minister of Health, there aren't solely 2 approaches to life, misery or absolute treatment. There's something in between. I'd like to hear you on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I want to thank the member for the question and outlining the importance of harm reduction in offering a full continuum of care to those who use substances and struggle with the disease of addiction. I know Dr. Rob Tanguay, who is also ascribes to the importance of supervised consumption services as being an entry point into treatment, and is probably one of the very best entry points, is what he has stated, that we could possibly have for individuals who are most vulnerable. We need to have more, there isn't one size fits all when it comes to substance use and addiction. In order to meet people where they're at in community, we have to be able to open the door to show them that there is help available to them. Harm reduction is one of those entry points that is probably most critical for the most vulnerable, because they have been ignored, shunned, stigmatized, and in many cases criminalized, rather than getting the health care they deserve.
Merci, Mr. Thériault. Mr. Johns, please, for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Minister, for being here. Now, as the process to develop a roadmap for the development of national mental health and substance use health standards wraps up, how does the federal government intend to address the persisting and serious gaps in the collection of quality, comprehensive, and coherent data across jurisdictions?
I want to thank the member for his question, and through you, Mr. Chair, I'll say we are always guided by evidence and data through CRISM and CIHR. We have a robust system. We collect data of collecting data and evidence, including through our SUOP projects themselves as a lever of assessment. And without that data, we can't know what communities need. Without that data, this is what is guiding us to understand what are the best tools that we can offer Canadians when they struggle with substance use.
Minister, analysis of the bilateral agreements shows that less is being spent through those agreements than through the Promised Canada mental health transfer. In the wake of the closure of the Wellness Together Canada and gaps in consistent reporting to the Canadian Institute for Health Information on mental health and substance use health indicators, what is the federal government doing to hold provinces and territories accountable to ensuring consistent reporting on indicators and transparency and regular reporting on spending against priorities identified in the action plans?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll thank the member for the question. The Wellness Together portal was a once-in-a-generation or once-in-a-century investment where the federal government partnered in the unique situation and the demands and needs of Canadians for their mental health during the pandemic. It was never meant or intended to be an ongoing program. That doesn't mean that the need is not there, which is why in the bilateral agreements we ensured that mental health services were a key pillar in the provisions of signing those agreements. Healthcare belongs in the jurisdictions of provinces, and that is why we worked very carefully with them before shutting down the Wellness Together portal.
Very last bit of time. We had Dr. Sharon Koivu testify here at committee. She said she would table documents within a couple weeks. They've come to the committee. I want to make sure that those documents are available for the public. Can I seek unanimous consent from the committee to allow those documents to be released publicly to be examined by experts?
No, you don't have unanimous consent,
Okay,
Mr. Johns.
Mr. Chair, can I get an explanation on the rules that when this committee asks for documents from an expert witness, that information should be public? Because it wasn't an in-camera meeting, and the request was not made in camera. Can I get some clarification?
I'm going to actually invite the clerk to step in here because the rules around production of documents are a bit complicated depending on the wording. There are 3 ways that a committee can compel documents, but I'm going to ask the clerk to help us with that.
Just very quickly, given the time before the vote, the document, to my knowledge, was not requested as an order for production of documents. It was requested as a request for further information or a question taken as notice. Documents that are tendered to the committee are the possession of the committee. The committee can do with them as they wish during this sitting. At the end of the sitting, all of the documents, unless they have been deemed by the committee to be confidential, are public, and they are available to be searched. So if the committee wishes to discretionally not release the document at this point, but have it be public at the end of the sitting, that is certainly within the rights of the committee to do so. If they want to render it public, at any point they can choose to publish it on their website, or they can choose to designate it as confidential. All of those are options for the committee to consider.
Okay, Mr. Johns, that's your time. We can continue this conversation offline, I suppose. We've got about a minute before votes. I think we can get in one more turn, if the committee is okay with that, and then we'll vote, and then we'll suspend the vote. Everybody okay with that? Ms. Goodrich, for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to move a motion that I put on notice on Friday, June 14th, that given the large workload the committee has on its docket, the committee instructs the chair to book 5 meetings between July 8th, 2024 and September 13th, 2024 to deal with unfinished business and pressing matters facing Canadians, notably doctor shortages and the addiction crisis. Mr. Chair, we have been hearing very clearly very serious concerns, and so as such, I think that it is incumbent on each and every one of us to roll up our sleeves and get to work for Canadians, as that's exactly what they expect.
Thank you, Ms. Goodrich. Your motion is in order. The debate is on the motion. Dr. Hanley and then Mr. Johns.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have seen that this similar motions have been presented in many committees. So I would suspect that there is a partisan motivation behind this motion, and that it's not, we all face many pressing issues, both in our jurisdictions and as a country. We also have obligations to our constituents over the summer. I did notice that the member making the motion had posted some commentary about people taking a break over the summer and a summer vacation. That's although I hope we all take some rest over the summer, we all have work to do over the summer, and so I do not support the motion. I also move to adjourn debate.
Motion to adjourn debate is not
I requested
debatable and
recorded
goes
division.
directly to a vote. Could we have a recorded division on the motion to adjourn debate?
I ask for a recorded division.
A recorded division is about to take place.
Dr. Hanley.
Yay.
Sorry, the question to adjourn debate. Dr. Hanley, Madame Kayabaga.
Pour.
Merci. Madame Brière.
Oui.
Dr. Pawlowski.
For.
Ms. Sidhu.
Yes.
Dr. Ellis.
Against.
Mr. Patzer.
No.
Ms. Goodridge.
No.
Dr. Kitchen.
No.
Mr. Thériault.
No.
Mr. Johns.
No.
2, 4, 6. 6 nays, 5 yeas.
Okay, next on the speakers list is Mr. Johns, and then Dr. Pawlowski and Dr. Ellis.
Thank you. So Mr. Chair, the reason I voted no was because I do want to speak to this. The Conservatives, we had a study, a tour across Canada that went to 13 different meetings, and the Conservatives failed to show up for 11. They talk about rolling up their sleeves, and I can understand individual circumstances surfacing, Mr. Speaker. We have that all the time. We've had colleagues lose family members and had to find subs. We have 25 members. They have 118 members, Mr. Speaker. But I find it interesting that the Conservative leader held a press conference in Vancouver with other MPs during one of the days of study at HESA, that they were able to find time to do a press conference on legislation that actually already exists, Mr. Speaker. And then they favorably showed up at a meeting that was held by the Alberta government and provincial-run facilities and not show up at the rest of the meetings across Canada. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, I will say this. When the Conservatives go and meet those 11 organizations that took time out of their lives and days of saving lives, because that's what those organizations and people do, then I'm willing to talk about this motion. I'm willing to work with them on getting back to continuing the work we need to do. But I think before any further conversation about more meetings, I think the Conservatives owe it to those individual organizations and individuals and Canadians to go and meet with those organizations and listen to them. That's rolling up their sleeves, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair.
Point of order.
Yeah, a point of order from Ms. Briere. Go ahead.
Est-ce qu'on pourrait libérer la ministre si
Oui.
on discute?
Oui.
Could we free the minister if we're going to debate?
Underway. I am quite concerned that if we don't suspend the meeting and somebody has technical difficulties, that they're going to be denied their chance to vote. The minister has also reached the 1 hour that she had committed to us, so I'm going to thank the minister for being with us and give her the opportunity to vote, and then I'm going to ask to suspend the meeting until we're finished voting. We'll follow the same procedure as last time. If there's a will to come back before the normal time, I'll canvass the room. We do have some committee business to deal with. Minister Sachs, thank you so much for being with us. Make sure you get your vote in. It's that's why the good people elected you to be here. We appreciate, as always, your appearance, your flexibility with respect to the timing and the patience that you showed in responding to our questions. The meeting is suspended. and I can confirm that during the suspension, there were discussions with all members present indicating a willingness to reconvene the meeting a little bit ahead of what we would normally do. So we're here by unanimous consent of the committee to resume the meeting, and we were debating Ms. Goodridge's motion. Mr. Johns had ceded the floor. Next on the speaker's list is Dr. Pawlowski, please. No, you're after Dr. Pawlowski.
So I'd like to state that I appreciate the motion, and I appreciate the severity of the problem we have with not having access to doctors. Certainly many people in my riding are in that situation, and I'm very cognizant of the importance of that. Turns out my blood pressure got high. Probably too much time in this meeting is because driven my blood pressure high. So as a doctor, I knew it was high, but you know, the chronic management of high blood pressure is not my area of expertise. I was an emerge doctor, but I know that problems even getting in to see a doctor, as a doctor, as an MP. So there's a lot of people who just never have their blood pressure checked until they go to the emerge when they have a hemorrhagic stroke or something. So I understand the importance of getting doctors. I also certainly understand the importance of the opioid crisis. The question is, should we meet during the summer in order to try to solve this problem? And certainly as a lifelong doctor who still practices medicine, I've been up many nights looking after people when they're sick when I had to. I've operated people in the middle of the night. I've done procedures in the middle of the night. Not particularly because I like working in the middle of the night, because you have to. And I'm certain there's other doctors here who feel the same way. So the question is this: do we have to? Is it going to change anything? And I'd like to say I do think that our committee has moved the dial on various subjects recently, one of them being healthcare workforce shortages, which I think the work of the committee has contributed to addressing that issue. Some of the issues around legalization and safe supply, I think perhaps the view on those has been changing, I think in part because of the work of this committee. But how much more are we going to change over the course of the summer? I don't think very much. And on the other hand, we certainly have other duties. We have duties to our own constituents. I've got 90,000 people who are my constituents, and I'm their only MP, and they deserve the time to be able to talk to me about their problems. And the summer is a big part of my time to do that. So with all this in mind, I have to say I disagree with the motion. And furthermore, given the time of day, I have to say I will try again. Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn the meeting or moving to adjourn debate on the motion?
Adjourn motion. Adjourn the motion. Adjourn
Okay.
debate on the motion.
Okay. All right. So that needs to go straight to a vote, non-debatable.
We have a
dilatory
recorded
motion.
division, please, Chair.
Recorded division on the motion to adjourn debate on the motion.
Motion to adjourn debate on the motion. Dr. Hanley.
Support.
Madame Kayabaga.
Pour?
Madame Brière.
Oui.
Dr. Pawlowski.
For.
Ms. Sidhu.
Yes.
Dr. Ellis.
Against.
Mr. Patzer.
No.
Ms. Goodridge.
No.
Dr. Kitchen.
No.
Mr. Terhune.
Oui.
Mr. Johns.
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays.
All right. So the debate on the motion is terminated, suspended, adjourned. According to our notice of motion, our notice of meeting, the remainder of the agenda requires us to go into camera. So at this point, we'll need to suspend the meeting to go into camera and to deal with the drafting instructions and the other things that are listed on the notice of meeting. So that's going to take, I think, 5 to 10 minutes, and then we only have resources until 6:45. So that will be done at that point if we're not done sooner. So the meeting is therefore suspended to go into camera.
Thank you.